Hey there, welcome to Professor Pearl, a YouTube channel about knitting. I'm Nicole, and today I'm going to recap Sacred Sheep. So last weekend I went to Sacred Sheep in Portland and had the best time. So I decided I'm gonna make some videos. So this video is the recap where I'm just gonna talk about the social aspects and the friendships and the fun. And I'll have a second video on the things I purchased at Sacred Sheep in case you want to not see that, or you do want to just see that and not hear about it. You can choose. So this is recap social only. The abstract, in case you don't have a lot of time to watch the entire video, the abstract is internet friends are real friends. And there's nothing like the knitting community where it's like you're a knitter and that instantly means you're best friends. It sounds so cheesy, but it felt that way at Sacred Sheep, and it was a sacred time, truly. So yeah, I'll just go chronologically about my time at Sacred Sheep. It was one day, and yeah, so the morning of Sacred Sheep, I think VIP could get in at 11 a.m. and early bird tickets noon. I had an early bird ticket, so I could get in at noon. I got up early in the morning. I live in the Pacific Northwest, south of Portland in wine country, so very close to Portland, but not in Portland. So I didn't need to get a hotel downtown or anything like that, but I did have like a 40-minute drive in the morning. So I got up in the morning and had breakfast at home with my family and spent some time with them. I didn't have a full breakfast, I just had a little bacon because I knew that I was going to drive and pick up my friend Emily, the botanical knitter, here on YouTube and on Instagram from her Airbnb, and we were going to go out for breakfast. But I knew it was going to be like a later breakfast, so I wanted to like have a little snack before I went. So I was like a little bit nervous about the driving because I didn't know like how the parking situation was going to be, and I really didn't need to be nervous because when you're leaving in the morning on a Saturday, the parking was fine. So I pick Emily up from her Airbnb. I actually go into her Airbnb for a little bit and we just like socialize and have a fun time, and then we get in the car and we go to it's either Pine State Biscuits or Pine Street Biscuits. I'll put the right name below, and I need to remember this because I need to go back because it was so yummy. It was just like a wonderful way to like kick off a yarn festival, is to go have like a late breakfast with your friend. And it was so good. And yeah, I definitely want to take my husband Kyle back there. It was so good. My only critique of it is that there was vegan options and all kinds of things, but there wasn't gluten-free options, and I eat a gluten-free diet. I'm not allergic to gluten, I am intolerant, and so I cheated and had some gluten, and then I paid for it. But it was delicious. I'm putting in a picture of the sandwich here because it was so good. And at this point in time, Emily and I had planned on wearing matching sweaters. Like a while ago we planned it because we needed it. Emily's gorgeous. Oh, side note, right before we went into the Pine Street Biscuits, I took her picture on a street, and it's like probably the best picture I've ever taken in my life. So you can see Emily, she finished her sweater, blocked, gorgeous, styled. I was still like disillusioned at this point, thinking like, hey, I can finish this twisted ribbing in my sweater. So I was knitting it at breakfast, really thinking I could at least like bind off the ribbing on the bottom and just be sleeveless. No, I did not finish my sweater in time. So I had my sleeves on holders and I had the ribbon on holders. It didn't stop me. I put it on and I wore my whip. I mean, if the goal at a yarn festival is to get somebody to chat with you or like to make more friends, I have to recommend wearing your whip. Like, it's very relatable. Like I had like, I didn't have enough purl strings or cords, so I had my needles on the bottom with the cords, and I had cords on one arm, and then I had needles on the other. So yeah, and so then I was worried about the needles like coming off, so Emily had like these little stitch stopper things, so I put those in the bottom. Yeah, I definitely wore my whip. And in a way, sometimes like slacking and not being a deadline like is a bummer, but in some ways it pays off. And it paid off because it was really funny. I didn't realize how many people would notice / think it was hilarious, but like it was really funny. And then the other thing is, after breakfast we go and get in line for Sacred Sheep, and it was hot. Like it had been raining like all week. It's raining now. If you hear some background noise, I'm on my porch and there's like a creek that goes through my yard, and it's like very full and flowing because it's been raining so much. And the sun's like was coming out of the clouds, and it like wasn't raining, and it got hot. Like Emily actually like took her kind of sweater off and like was wearing it like a cowl for a second, like because it was hot. And so we were waiting in line, and though we had early bird tickets, we waited in line for a while. We didn't get into Sacred Sheep until 1-ish, so we waited in line for over an hour. And I couldn't even tell you it was over an hour because I was knitting and socializing. We were talking to all the knitters around us, and it was so fun. And it didn't feel like an hour. Actually, me even saying that feels like I'm not telling the truth, like that we didn't wait in line for an hour, but I know we didn't get in until past 1. And I remember thinking that with everything that has kind of happened on the East Coast with woolen folk and stuff, I remember being grateful in that moment because people had clickers. They were clearly monitoring how many people could go into the building and really seemed to care. Truly, I can't tell you how many people were volunteering and how many people had checked in on us in line, and it was like off to a great start. And so then I'm not like a fiber festival expert at all. Like I don't consider myself to be a fiber festival expert. I've never been to Rhinebeck. I've been to a few small ones like India Untangled West. I have been to a large one in the Midwest called like Stitches Midwest. And I went to Flock this year in Seattle, just like maybe medium sized to large. I don't know. So I'm not an expert, but I will say this. It was like just walking in, like maybe the best experience that I had, because sometimes I felt like walking in to like India Untangled West or to Flock when I was waiting in line and then like got in, it kind of felt frantic, like get into this line, go here. And when I walked in to Sacred Sheep, I just felt like a peace. Like there was lots of room, there was lots of places to go and look, and I didn't feel rushed. And so the first thing we did was we went to the merch. And I'm not going to talk about my haul in this video. That is a separate video. But I wanted to mention it because I am wearing my Sacred Sheep merch here. This is the logo. And it's, well, I shouldn't say the logo. There was several drawings. They even had flash tattoos. I had no idea what flash tattoos are because I don't have any tattoos. And so I had to Google it. But flash tattoos are like, this is what mine, as somebody that doesn't have any tattoos, like my understanding of a flash tattoo is that there's like a set of tattoos, and you can go and you can't like personalize your tattoos, but you can pick from these tattoos. And this is saying a lot because I don't have any tattoos, and I suddenly wanted a tattoo, and I had like they were so good. I will pop in a picture of the tattoo options or some of them here. So good. There was one with like a lamb bending down with like a halo and like wings on it. And if I was to get a tattoo at Sacred Sheep, it would have been that one. And so they had like other kinds of things like vinyl stickers. And so because that would have been the tattoo that I would get, I got that as a vinyl sticker and got one of those for my mother as well. So anyway, I will save all that for the haul, but just wanted, since I'm wearing some Sacred Sheep merch here, wanted to mention that. And did a lot of shopping, but in the midst of shopping, met people. Like, I met Birdie Parker, and she was really, really nice, like so nice. And everybody I met at Sacred Sheep, like, felt very humble and kind, and it was so good. And I was in certain booths, and sometimes people would say, "Oh, I watch your podcast." And if that was you, if you took the time to tell me that in a booth, I just want to say you made my day, like my entire day. And I don't know if you're watching it now, but there was somebody in the junk yarn booth that had a pink love note on. So first of all, I love pink. I love love notes. And I sometimes feel insecure about recording on my porch, but I like to record on my porch because it brings me joy. Like right now, like all in front of me are like the fall colors on the leaves, and there's this, I can hear my creek, and it just like makes me feel calm. And so sometimes I feel insecure about recording outside, but I also enjoy it, so I do it. And so that's been on my heart a little bit. And this woman came up to me and she said that she loves listening to the birds when I record, and it just brought me so much joy. So if that's you, please comment below so I can know who you are. I forgot your name. So it just was a great time. At a certain point, I got to the end of the booth and I realized that I don't know, all the vendors, I was just kind of thinking like, they looked really hungry. I mean, I'm sure that they had food and ways to get food, but I just offered to one of the vendors like, "Hey, do you want me to go get you something to eat?" And they were so grateful for that. So I went out to go, there's a purpose to this story. So I went out there outside for the first time to go get something to eat for one of the vendors. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's no line over here and a really long food line over here. And so I went over to the one like food cart, and there was no line because they ran out of food. So then that really only left one food cart, and it had a very long line, and I waited in line for a long time. But while I was waiting in line, Emily and others started to kind of gather around, and I met new knitting friends in line for the food. And when I say met new knitting friends, like following on Instagram, chatting already, like plans with some to meet up again. For example, I met, and oh, it's upside down. I met Kirsten, and so cool, so fun. And she has a business that's called Weave in My Ends. She was sharing that she was like in the shower or something, and it just like came into her mind of like, I wonder if there's a weaveinmyends.com. And so she started this business where like you can mail her your project that you need the ends woven in for, or you need it like finished, and she'll complete it. How cool is that? So I just thought that was like epic. So after I get the food for the vendor, it was Shelly from Shelly Can, and we came out and I had a cider. There was like a little drink cart that had wine, cider, beer, I think some cocktails, maybe some mocktails, and there was this tent with lots of seating under it, and everybody's just sitting there and knitting. And so we got a seat and we sat down and knit, and it was so fun. And that's where I met another new friend, Sherry, who had on this incredible colorwork sweater that she made in 2004. Hopefully I'm popping in a picture here, because she even like embroidered her name and the year. And she was from Connecticut, and truly, like, I don't know, just people kept coming and sitting. People were talking across different tables. And to be honest, like the highlight of my entire Saturday, I think, was sitting there knitting with people in that tent. Like it was like the ticket, all of it was worth it just to sit in that tent with all the knitters. Like even if you didn't make a single purchase and you just went over to that tent to knit, and so like what you spend is like the admission to get in, it like would have been worth it, because there's all these like people who love knitting, well, love fiber, love spinning, love crocheting, love knitting, like love the yarny things we do, and they were all sitting together knitting and chatting with this shared interest, and it was awesome. We stayed there for quite a while, and then we actually did a second round of shopping. So one round of shopping, knitting for a long time, second round of knitting, or second round of shopping, and I bought more in my second round of shopping. And then while I'm doing the second round of shopping, it was like almost no crowds. Like I don't want to like say, oh, it was dead or something like this to make it sound like it wasn't a very vibrant festival, because it was, but I'm just saying like there was just substantially less people at the 5 p.m., 6 p.m. mark than there was during the early parts of the afternoon. And so if you don't like crowds, like a suggestion would be to go in the later part, and there was still lots of yarn. Of course, some yarn was picked over. Like in my second kind of round at Moondrake, like there wasn't as many Fua colors, but there was still lots of Fua. And same thing with Spin Cycle. Like there's still lots of Spin Cycle, maybe not a certain colorway if you were looking for it or something, but like there was just still plenty of yarn and and no crowds at the end, which is really fun. And when there was no crowds is when like I met more friends. Like when I very first started watching podcasts, like I suppose my daughter was born when I first discovered there was knitting YouTube. I watched a podcast called Stitch Mischief, and so she was there, bumped into her, and there is a designer, Vanessa, who has very classic designs, and they're gorgeous. Met her, and they're both very kind, and yeah, like just met a lot of people. And it was spied Andrew Mowry. She came up to our group and was chatting with Emily about spinning. So yeah, it was just very chill, meeting more friends. Oh, I met Katie, I think it's Katie from Knit Life Oils. I was trying to remember her name. She was part of that group too. And so yeah, so we just were hanging out, chatting, knitting, and then there's still probably about an hour or so left of Sacred Sheep, but Emily and I decided to go back to her Airbnb and just relax. And I met a new friend, Jasmine. She came with as well. And so Jasmine, Emily, and I were just like knitting, chatting, taking out our yarn, putting it on the counter, like showing what we got, like relaxing, having a good time. And then we went to a brewery called Wayfinder for like a meetup. And we closed that down and had a really good time. And yeah, so, oh, the best part about the brewery meetup, besides knitting, eating, having a nice cider, was there was like a group of women, and one of them comes over and she's like, I'm a knitter too. This is a sweater that my friend made me. It didn't fit her, so then she gave it to me. And we're just chatting, knitting, and super fun. And she goes to sit down, and then she comes back with like her posse. Like, so they're like this whole little group of knitters is like chatting with us. And so then we're like, oh, did you go to Sacred Sheep? They didn't even know about Sacred Sheep. They didn't go to Sacred Sheep. They were just knitters at this brewery. And we just like talked knitting for a while, and they had really cool stuff on that was hand knit that they were wearing out at the brewery. And it was just really fun to like connect with knitters out in the wild. So that was the end of Sacred Sheep. I ended up spending the night at Emily's Airbnb and then coming home in the morning. So it was just like a one-day event, but super special. I felt like it was just an awesome opportunity to strengthen friendships I already have. Like, this is the third time Emily and I have met up. We first became friends when I started my YouTube channel, and like, we've met up in Wisconsin, we met up at Flock, and then we got to hang out at Secret Sheep. So that was really cool. But then also, like, develop new relationships. I feel like Emily's like super well connected and knows a lot of people, and so I got to make some new yarn friends. And yeah, it was just, I had a blast, and I ended up getting a lot of beautiful yarn, which I will show in my haul video. And while that's really cool, like, I could have not bought a single skein of yarn, and I would have had like just as fun of a time, and it would have, and the ticket price would have been worth it just to sit in the tent and knit with other knitters. And yeah, maybe one year I'll get a tattoo, who knows. So hopefully next I'll put in some video footage of Sacred Sheep. I really don't think I have that much video footage because I just think I was enjoying the moment a lot and sometimes forgot to take out my camera. And so I have a couple little clips for you, and I hope you enjoy that. Happy knitting. Bye. Okay, it's me again. After I said goodbye, I realized that what was I knitting when I was under the tent? I was knitting my love note. I have a lot to go here. But when I was sitting there knitting, the table next to me, this is so cool. So Arminda and Laura. So Laura is the dyer for Always Be Kind Yarn. And she and her yarn bestie, Arminda, they have a podcast here on YouTube called Kindful Knits. And how cute is this? So, when they would see like a yarn friend or make a yarn friend, they would hand them this little card that had their podcasts listed on it, Kindful Knits. But inside the little bag was like a little stitch marker, I guess. And like needle stoppers. And so they handed me these, and they were all different kinds of needle stoppers, and I was just so excited because these ones just randomly handed to me are like white with like little confetti, and look, so it matches my love note. And I just thought it was very serendipitous, and I can't believe I forgot to mention that when I was doing my debrief or my recap.